Welcome back to Talkville, folks. We're still doing it. We're still doing the show, and that's thanks to you. If you're loving this rewatch podcast, it's because you're listening, and the patrons are helping us out. Patreon.com/Talkville if you want to join Patreon. A lot of perks, a lot of fun stuff. So join Patreon and help us out and keep this podcast going because you matter, and I appreciate you. Tom, appreciate you. Tommy, good to see you.
Well, I that brings up a good question. I don't think we wouldn't be doing this without the patrons.
I don't think so. No.
We just wouldn't.
No, it just wouldn't be, it wouldn't be.
We wouldn't do it.
Conducive.
So thank you. That's my way of saying thank you.
A good business model, I guess. And guess who's here today, folks? Guess who's filling in for Ryan? Ryan is going on a camping trip or something with his dad, and I envy that.
Why do you downplay that? That's beautiful.
Something with his dad.
Well, I'm not downplaying
because you don't want to go on a camping trip with your dad.
Well, I envy him that he has such a good relationship, and
there you go.
I think it's really cool. I love my dad, but I don't see us doing a camping trip together. I don't see that. I don't think he'd want to spend that much time with me, and I'm not sure I don't know. Let's just move on. Bryce is here, filling in for Ryan. Bryce is the mastermind behind this whole show. Without him and the Patreons, forget it. He gives us things to do so we know what to talk about and makes this thing interesting. So, Bryce, thanks for being here, dude.
Yeah.
You're
Bryce,
folks.
how
Bryce
does it
talk? You already cut Bryce off. He didn't say a fucking word. Hey, put your microphone close to there. That's better.
Is that better?
That's better.
Can you hear me good?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Hey, folks, what's up?
Are you nervous to be in front of camera?
No.
You don't care?
No, I don't care.
Bryce has a little boy, Beckham.
Any advice,
Tom? Any advice to Bryce, who has a child who's one and
just turned one in like a week or something?
Yeah, that's right. Because I sent him something.
Mm-hmm. He loved it.
He loved it. I loved the pictures. It was rad.
I'm allowed to talk now?
Yes.
Okay. No one else is about to talk, so I can.
How dare you?
Someone. I was just at a con, and a father told me this. He's like, "Do you have any advice?" And the poor guy looks so tired. I could just tell he was like the most tired he's ever been. And there is something that someone told me with children, especially boys, that at around 3, you're going to get more attention from your kid. Like if you're I think you're a good person from what I know about you. And
pretty good.
I was jealous of my wife's, the attention she was getting from my children, or at least my first. I was jealous. And it took me a while to understand. And then now they're coming, "Hey, Dad, let's go do stuff," Yeah. And that's natural and it's great. You just have to be patient a little bit because you feel like you're being told you're not doing enough, but you're doing a shitload.
Yeah.
And not being appreciated.
No, I'm totally.
But then it'll come back to you.
I'm almost just like, I'm on the bench. I'm ready to come in for the fourth quarter when it gets fun. I know that my kid's a mama's boy. Titty baby for a couple years, but when he titty baby,
okay,
literally and figuratively. But when he wants to do like sports and fun stuff, I know that I'm going to be the fun dad that does that. So it'll come.
Yeah, to me, I'm cool with that. It's less work for me. So if it's less work for you, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you learned from your father, Michael.
Yes, less work. All right, so this is not a family podcast. I guess it is a family podcast, but it's the Rewatch podcast, and we love to discuss the show with you. We love the questions that come in. We love the boards and people responding. And
people loved last episode that aired.
What was it?
The Phoenix with Emmanuel Vaugier.
Yeah,
they enjoyed Tom and Ryan reading parts of the synopsis.
All right, great. Maybe
a lot of comments about that.
Is that true?
Yeah.
So they don't like my reading?
No, not that they
I'm
did.
Just kidding. I'm kidding.
That's what you heard from
I am the glue. No, but we'll do that again because I like that too because I like to listen.
I prefer when you do it.
No, I don't always like to read, but I just, I felt like I'm probably a better reader than you guys. But listen, that's not the point. I like you guys doing that. But look, also our socials. If you're just listening for the first time, at Talkville Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, at Talkville Pod on Twitter. The hotline number is 213-JET-CUTE. I saw someone wearing a shirt at a con that said that. I love the Talkville shirts and the sweatshirts. And, we have pictures signed by me and Tom that are on the talkvillepodcast.com. We're getting some cool artwork by May Charters eventually. doing another original piece of art, and those sold really well. They were really cool pieces. And Tom and I will be in Rhode Island, DC, and Salt Lake City in September. Tom will be in Pittsburgh coming up.
I can real quick. I know we're trying to get to this, and this is fun, but don't get me wrong. We haven't really got it started. But there's a huge episode coming up that I want to inspire people to watch and ask questions about, and it has to do with the Straight Jacket and Lex Luthor. And I think this should be an epic event for this podcast. Is to single out that episode, Bryce. We can talk about this later, but I think that this is a pinnacle part to put Michael on the spot to discuss that episode.
You know, yeah, we'll get into that. You know, the only thing I will tell you, which I'm sure I'll repeat it, is I remember the Warner Brothers was trying to get me nominated for an Emmy or something, or Golden Globe or whatever, and they wouldn't have anything to do with it because it was WB.
Really? That's
CW.
They just wouldn't give us a chance. And I was like, oh, all right. It's kind of bummed. I was like, well, why does that
they
matter?
Wouldn't even like look
if you have
at
a performance
the
that's unbelievable in Boy Meets World, why wouldn't it be included?
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. But I was like, you know, not that awards mean that much, but it was cool that they were trying, but I was a little bummed that no one cared. And I was like, damn, but at the end of the day, you have to care. As long as you know you did a good job and you were happy with your work, that's all that matters.
By the way, awards mean a lot. If you get nominated, your quote doubles. If you win, your quote quadruples.
Yeah, but also
it means a lot.
Most of the time, if you win an Oscar, your career goes downhill. That's kind of, but that's Oscars. I don't know. All right, let's get into this. Without further ado, let's get into season 3, episode 6. This is called Relic. Not sure why. Titles: Relic aired November 5th, 2003. Director Marita Grabiak. I remember her.
You don't know why?
Marita Grabiak. She did Skinwalker. Written by the lovely Kelly Sodders and Brian Peterson. Guest star Camille Mitchell as Nancy Adams, William B. Davis as William Tate, Tom Heaton as Dex McCallum, Tim Henry as Officer Mason. Cool character. I thought the thing is about him, I thought, oh, this guy's probably dead by now because he looked old. He was a detective, and then I looked him up. And he's only 79, which means he was only 8 years older than me when this started. And he looked like he was in his 70s. But those old school actors, like George C. Scott, was like my age when he did like The Changeling, and he looked like ancient. Mm-hmm. It was a different time period.
Hard
people
life.
Just were weathered, you know.
So I just want to say that going into this, now that we're on, I'm highly anticipating everything you don't like about this episode.
Oh, good.
Number 2, Relic. It's because of the relic that Jor-el left for Clark. Let me just fill you in there.
Oh.
And number 3, this episode reveals one of the most astonishing revelations, I think, in the history of the series.
Wow.
And we'll get to it.
We'll get to that because I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Co-starring John Mann as Lachlan Luthor and Kendall Cross as Jessica Kent. Michael Carl Richards as young man Tate. Little Man Tate. Remember that movie? Peter Benson as young Dex. Dean Ray as Hiram Kent. This week, we revisit the 1960s as Clark and Lana fight to save a wrongfully convicted man. They flash back and discover secrets from the past from the Kent family, the Langs, the Luthors, and even Mayor Tate. Now, before we start, I didn't hate this episode. I really didn't hate it. And the more I watched it, I was kind of like, here's what I thought. I thought there was too many making out scenes with you and Lana. It was just too much. As much as I would have enjoyed it, I felt like it was just a lot. It was like, oh my gosh, it's long. They're long.
There was like 3 or so, right? There's like 3 flashbacks.
3 flashbacks of just making out. One scene, it just kept going. It's like, we're lying down on a blanket in the barn that happens to be there. Everything was perfect.
And then flip over.
Yeah, flip over, man. The episode opens up on the old Smallville infirmary. Lana is meeting with the man convicted of murdering her great-aunt Louise Lang because he wants to clear his name. As Dex McCallum holds back tears, we see a flashback of him finding his wife shot several times and being busted by the sheriff.
So, real quick, one of my takeaways is Lana meeting with this guy under these circumstances is a clear indication that she is totally capable of accepting Clark's secret. She's meeting with the guy who murdered her aunt. She's willing to be that open to accept that situation. And you're going to get that a lot in this episode, and actually the next episode.
It's like this whole season is like that. There was a couple episodes, Extinction, the guy with the Jesse, where it looks like Clark is super and she's totally cool with it and then kicks his ass. And then goes on, it's like, oh, he's got a bulletproof vest. But she was cool with it for a moment.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if she was cool with it. She was more astonished, like, oh my Lord.
Yeah, but she wasn't like, oh, kill him, he's a freak.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, there is. It's sort of this ongoing back and forth of like, should Clark just tell her? Should he not? What are the repercussions of him telling her? What are they, is it worth it? But as someone who loves someone so much, you think, like back in the 60s when Jor-el or Joe, that we'll get back to that. We'll get into that. That's the next episode.
Yeah.
No, that's this episode.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, anyway. Instead of being freaked out by a man who killed her aunt, Lana hears him out, is determined to find the man who really killed her. Based on a police sketch, this man looks like, well, Tom Welling. Clark Kent. Lana takes a sketch to share Dex's theories with Clark. Clark is dismissive that his biological grandfather or father may have had anything to do with it. And as Lana says, it's not like he just fell out of the sky. Clark notices a Kryptonian necklace on the old picture of Louise.
That's the relic.
Oh, yeah.
Just to let you know.
I don't know how I forgot that. I just saw that yesterday.
I'm here to help.
I remember the symbol. Later that day, Clark takes Jonathan to the caves to search for clues of Jor-el's involvement in the murder. They find a carving of the same symbol on the walls, touch it to open a secret passageway, and then stick their hands in the hole, unlocking a wave of flashbacks in the Kryptonian medallion.
What I really like about this scene is it sets up Jonathan's trajectory of where does he belong in Clark's journey? It really does. Like, if you really watch Jonathan and what John Schneider did, he's going, how do I fit into this? How do I fit into this? And obviously, if you've already seen the episode, we'll find out later what it is. But John, the way he acted and played it, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that is kind of cool. I didn't put that together, that this episode kind of solidifies his place in Clark's life, like at the end.
Yeah. Because listen, I've never adopted a child and whatnot, but the show has addressed this thing before for Jonathan. Am I your dad? Am I your caretaker? Who's your father? Is Jor-el? All these questions have always been there. But if you see Jonathan in the cave, you can see him sort of being like, okay, all right, what do we do now? Putting the pieces together, kinda. So anyway, I think I just thought my takeaway is Schneider did a great job.
You know what? It's also nice that a father, which I didn't experience this, would confide. His son confides in him, and as incredulous as it may sound, Jonathan entertains the idea, and he's there for his son and goes, "Hey, let's do. Okay, I'm with you.
I'm with you."
He's skeptical.
Yeah, it's like the type of dad that would go camping with his son.
How dare you?
By the way, not only is he skeptical, he's got to be terrified.
Oh, yeah.
Raising a kid is difficult. Raising a kid that's from another planet with this guy who keeps sending signals and things that
Jor-el's
affect.
Crazy.
It's terrifying.
I didn't realize what an effing lunatic he was. Later, Clark and Pete are walking downtown when all of a sudden Clark's flashes back to the 60s when we see Jor-el roaming the streets of pre-meteor shower Smallville. Moments later, we see Jor-el, or Joe, saving Louise from a robber, and the two share an awkward amount of eye contact with one another. They're both instantly intrigued. Clark goes to Chloe to help dig up old police records and gets defensive when she wonders how he's able to gather such descriptive recollection of the crime. We find out that the robber was Lachlan Luthor, Lex's grandfather. Chloe
that was huge, by the way.
Yeah. It was kind of a nice little additive. Chloe wants to stay away from the Luthors, but Clark convinces her to stay on the case. And Chloe talks to Lex about his criminal granddad, but Lex either plays dumb or has no idea what she's talking about. Side note, I feel like this is the first time we've had a scene shot on the second floor of this office, the library. I believe that's true. We've seen people up there.
Yeah.
Oh.
From what I remember, it's the first time there's like a camera looking down.
Yeah.
So there's two things I want to say. One is, and it may have been apparent before this, but in this episode, I somehow finally noticed Chloe's confidence more than ever.
Yeah, she's not a whiny little...
It used to be that Chloe would hear people and try to like play up to what they want her to say. This is the first episode where I noticed that Chloe kind of goes, "Oh, you said that. That's cool, but I'm going to say this now." Like she really steps up in her confidence. And I think that's cool.
The writing too. I think that they're starting to write for her instead of her being like caught in this love triangle, which everyone and their mother is tired of.
Right. And the other thing is shooting up in the top of the Luthor mansion like that. That is a very small space. And shooting up there was probably not convenient at all.
Yeah. But it forces you to focus on the matter at hand, which is these two people who, she's with a very powerful guy, and it forces you to make it's so intimate that it's really close-ups, and just it's about them.
Pressure.
Conversation. It's not about all these cool shots and all this stuff. So it was a cool idea. Talkville is brought to you by Factor. Oh, Tom, I couldn't live without these guys. Someone to make your wonderful, healthy meals that you don't have to prepare. You don't have to do anything. You just tell them what you like and they're at your door, and then you just heat them up within a few minutes and you're done. Come on, guys. With the busy fall season just around the corner, you might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle.
Level up with gourmet plus options prepared to perfection by chefs and ready to eat in record time. And treat yourself to upscale meals with premium ingredients like broccolini, leeks, truffle butter, and asparagus.
Look, if you're too busy running around during the day and you're thinking about lunch, keep your energy up with Lunch to Go. Effortless, wholesome meals like grain bowls, salad toppers that are ready to eat when you're on the go. No microwave needed.
Looking for calorie-conscious options ahead of the busy season? Try delicious, dietitian-approved, calorie-smart meals with around or less than 550 calories per serving.
Yeah, it's just what you need for the summer. I mean, there's so much going on, and this is so affordable and easy. I spend so much money, Tom, on these delivery services that charge you like $8 for taxes and delivery fees. And before you know it, you're getting a burger for $35. Or it's ridiculous. And we all do it. We're lazy. And now you could be even lazier, but save money and eat better meals with Factor. Yeah, and you can replenish your snack supply with an assortment of 45 plus add-ons. Tom, breakfast items like delicious apple cinnamon pancakes, bacon and cheddar egg bites, and potato, bacon and egg breakfast skillet. Or for an easy wellness boost, try refreshing beverage options like cold-pressed juices, shakes, and smoothies, especially when you're on the go, folks. These are fast, delicious, and ready to go.
This August, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door. Ready in just 2 minutes, no prep, no mess.
Head to factormeals.com/talkville50 and use code talkville50 to get 50% off. That's code talkville50 at factormeals.com/talkville50 to get 50% off. Talkville is brought to you by AG1, our good friends at AG1. And the reason why they're our sponsor is because we love them and they know that. It's genuine, it's real, we use the product, and we're going to tell you why. I don't like taking pills every day, vitamins and all these things, and it's like you have to swallow 20 things to get everything you're supposed to get. AG1, 1 scoop, you just put in water. That's it. You wake up, you can do it whenever you want. But 1 scoop is packed with 75 vitamins, minerals, probiotics, whole food sourced ingredients of high quality that give you major benefits like gut and mood support, boosted energy, even healthier looking skin, hair, and nails. And you know something, Tom? People are always like, dude, you fart a lot. You should take probiotics. Now I'm like, I just take this. This has got everything I need. I know how you feel about it. We've talked about it ad nauseum, but like, it's something we just both use. You travel a lot. You just went to Ecuador. Did you bring the travel packs?
Oh yeah, I did. And I came out unscathed.
Yeah, I bet you did. AG1 is a foundational nutrition supplement that delivers comprehensive nutrients to support whole body health. Science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotics, and whole food sourced ingredients.
science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotics, and whole food source nutrients.
AG1 is raising the standard for quality in the supplement category, and it helps you build your health, foundation first.
If you want to take ownership of your health, try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs, which I love, with your first purchase.
Go to drinkag1.com/talkville. That's drinkag1.com/talkville. Check it out. That night, Lana shares some of Louise's old items to help them solve the case. They find a love letter signed off by Jay and a necklace that sends Clark into another flashback. We see Louise and Joe in the barn stuffing tongues. Their horseplay in the barn gets interrupted when Clark snaps out of it and realizes that the Drifter and Louise were in love.
And she was married.
Yeah, well, things happen sometimes.
It's the 60s. Come on.
In the 60s, that's why you didn't do it. That was really forbidden then. The next day in Metropolis, Lex questions Lionel on why he was hiding Lachlan's past. Lionel tells him that he rewrote the Luthor history because he didn't want to pay for the sins of his father. I like how Lex then says, I can understand that. Like referring to like, yeah, I'm dealing with the sins of my father. Lionel opens up about the pain of losing his parents and how he copes with it by burying himself in his work. Over in Smallville, Clark and Lana go to the barn where Louise was shot. Clark sees an old car and touches it to flash back to the past. Here was my issue. This is 60 years ago. How is there anything there? How is there anything there? I mean, I guess you got to suspend disbelief. I mean, that's maybe in this small town in Kansas that in Smallville things don't change. You know,
I think that someone was murdered in that barn, so it's hard for resale value. You know, it's just
just leave everything.
Forget about it. Forget about it.
I had a question. That Lionel scene where he's talking about his parents had died. So I'm a few episodes ahead, and like that whole storyline still carries over into it. At that point, does Glover he doesn't know what's going to happen with his character, right? So how is he playing it? He plays it in a way where, but he plays it in a way where now knowing what I know, I could see him like, oh, is he faking it? Like he plays it really good.
Yeah.
Like, is he faking emotion?
I think that the key was in especially with me and John, it was just keep everything ambiguous. If you think Lionel hates Lex, play against that. I love my son. If you think Lex is, he's letting his father win or getting one up on him, Lex is playing it where like, okay, you never know. Like he doesn't buy it. They're both playing a chess game, a very methodical chess game. So
yeah, and a lot of especially in that relationship is what is not being said. But on a practical level, we got scripts maybe 4 days before we started shooting them.
Yeah, to answer your question about
no one knew what was going on.
And they don't even give you like a heads up of the storyline that's going to happen.
Unless you ask, like, where is this headed?
Yeah.
But I never, ever asked. If you ask Alan Miles, who was the actor who never really bothered them with shit, it was me. I rarely called them.
I think I'd beat you on that, except for one time when I was asking for air conditioning. That's the only time I ever reached out to them.
All right. Yeah, but I probably called them maybe once or twice a season to say, hey, by the way, real quick question, is this like Lex seems so evil in this? Like, we know you'll play it the opposite. Okay. We see Joe and Louise continuing to stuff tongues. Joe tells her that he needs to leave. Louise wants to leave with him, but he tells her he needs to return alone because it's his destiny. I'm your density. I mean, destiny. Back to the Future. As they embrace, Lachlan walks in with a pistol in his hand. Joe pushes aside Louise and then bounces bullets off his metal chest. However, the bullets ricochet and ended up hitting Louise and killing her. My only problem with this is they shot her in the shoulder. Shoot her in the heart or near the heart. You're not going to die if it's on your left side, on your right side.
Yeah.
That just bothered me, like logically.
It's the 60s.
Yeah, it's the 60s. It's the 60s, Tom. Lex returns to Smallville, learns of the new development that stands in the site of the tenement that his grandparents died in. He learns that it may not have been an accidental fire and was caused by some sort of explosion. And that was pretty cool because Lionel's keeping something. The bullshit factor is high and Lex can smell it a million miles away. I smell you. You
the fact that
skin cream, but not
the fact that he built an entire skyscraper on the site, I thought was That was just awesome.
Yeah. Over at Smallville High, Clark shares his suspicions of Lachlan being the murderer. Chloe and Lana are confused on how he keeps getting hunches, so he reveals that he's been having memories of 1961. What's more, we find out that Deputy Billy Tate, who is now Mayor of Smallville, was the one who let Lachlan out of jail. Clark and Lana go to meet Mayor Tate to explain how Dex is innocent. By the way, that guy was in the X-Files.
Yeah.
Oh, he was the cigarette smoking man. Everybody knows. I knew who he was when he got there. I was so intimidated by him.
Yeah, he was good. He was like, I had a scene with him.
Yeah.
Like he had a scene back when, remember when he goes, "Don't laugh at me."
Yeah.
That was improvised. And it shocked me. I was like, whoa.
It's like season 1, I think.
Yeah, he was good. As the mayor dismisses their attempts, Clark walks around the room and finds a signature from Tate where the T looks very eerily similar to the J that was signed on the love letter to Louise. I didn't really notice that.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Earlier in the scene, Tate makes a creepy remark of how Lana looks just like Louise, who he had the hots for. Clark has another flashback, and we see Deputy Tate confronting Joe and Louise getting busy in a car. Tate's visibly upset and threatens Joe to beat it. After the deputy leaves, Louise opens up on her bland marriage and how her father prevented her from chasing her dreams. Joe responds by sharing his issues with his father. Then Joe picks up Louise and begins to fly. I thought that was a really nice moment. Again, that was the moment that, it's like, oh, well, Louise is okay with this. Why wouldn't Lana be okay with it? Tom, was this just a crane shot? Any issues doing something like this at night, with the wires or whatever?
I don't remember it, but I'm pretty sure we didn't do it on site. We probably did it on a green screen later with wires. Sometimes we may have used just a platform for this.
Yeah.
I don't recall, but I'm pretty sure we didn't do it on site. I think it was a green screen situation.
I'm going to have to ask you to.
You'd think I'd remember. Isn't that crazy?
They asked the sheriff to open up a new case to take down the longtime mayor for a murder 40 years ago. Surprisingly, the sheriff is not on board. I love that because she's like, now I got things to do in this century. Back on the farm, Jonathan's talking with Martha about how vulnerable he feels with all the discussion around Jor-el because it reminds him he's not Clark's real father. Then Clark shows up and notices his grandfather's old gun hung up on the kitchen. A little too much there. He goes to grab it. Flashback! We see Grandpa Hiram Kent confronting Joe, who's on the run for the suspected murder of Louise.
This was awesome. The fact that we get to meet Jonathan's dad, this was awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. And he kind of looked like a young Jonathan in a way. I could see that. And little baby Kent.
Well, I remember the guy, the actor who played Hiram. At one point, he had done a couple takes, and he's like, "Am I doing okay?" And I was like, "You're asking me? I think you're doing great." Like he was great.
You know what we should do? We should have a shirt that says "Jonathan is Gene."
That's a deep cut.
That's a deep cut right there for real listeners. Jonathan is Gene. Joe pleads his case and Hiram gives him the old Kent handshake. Clark and his parents continue searching for old items to touch and end up going through Hiram's old chest that Jonathan has stored away. I haven't seen this chest in 50 years. Clark goes on to learn that Hiram helped Jor-el escape. Jonathan doesn't believe him, but Clark proves it by sharing Jonathan was almost named after Gene Autry.
It's kind of crazy he stowed him away and helped him escape. Like, oh, you're a random drifter, wanted for murder? Come inside with my pregnant wife and I'll help you. Like, what?
Well, yeah, that's ridiculous. But also, the parallel is cool that back in the day, his father tried to help Jor-el and now he's helping Kal-El. Cool. That's kind of like a cool thing. Like maybe it's destiny. Mm-hmm. It is destiny. All these things happen for a reason. The caves all make sense now. Well, all these things make sense.
This is the huge reveal that is huge for this series is that Jonathan was chosen. It wasn't just an accident that they found him, and that's huge for Jonathan. And I think it's a beautiful thing for the series.
Yeah,
and these characters.
I'm liking this episode more now that I understand it.
I'm surprised.
That night at the mayor's house, Clark decides to cosplay as his dad and scare the mayor into admitting he was behind Lachlan's murder of Louise. During this, Tate shoots at Clark, who goes Keanu and dodges the bullets. The mayor goes to pull at Bud Dwyer. Oh, that's a good get right there. Do you guys remember Bud Dwyer? Well, you do, Bryce. He was the Pennsylvania mayor or something that killed himself on national television.
Wild.
I don't recommend that to anyone, by the way.
Yeah, don't
Don't watch it. Do not watch it. Raj, you'll go watch
and don't watch it and don't do it.
The mayor goes to pull a Bud Dwyer, but Clark takes the pistol before he can. Then Sheriff Adams comes in and forces Clark to flee. Tate then decides to confess to the sheriff. It was a little odd, but I kind of bought it. Like, he was like, I can't. Yeah, it was a little much. It was a little forced. Like, he would confess. He would confess to that, you know. We then see Dex being released from the infirmary after 40 years for a crime he didn't commit. Lana, this is great. I should have known that she didn't love me. I should have went our separate ways.
I'm totally cool with it.
I'm totally cool with it. He should have been like crying and going, I knew there was something wrong, but I just wish I would have figured it out. I wish I would have made her love me. I wish I could have made her love me. But no, he was like, yeah, I'm cool with it. Yeah. I'm 95 and about dead and been in jail my whole life.
What's the internet?
Dex tells Lana that he wishes.
There's a really great song out there, and the lyrics are, I can't make you love me.
I can't make you love me.
I can't make you love me.
Yep.
If
Dex
you don't.
tells Lana that he wishes he knew when to let go and that holding on to love can be dangerous. All right. Telling Lana that. Lana needs to know. That night in Luthor Mansion, Lex shares the details of the explosion in the tenement with Lionel, exposing that his grandfather was murdered. Lex is curious why Lionel didn't use this opportunity to seek revenge. I like that he kept questioning him. Like, well, why didn't you do that? Well, what? It's not like you to just let it go. And this none, the audience doesn't believe it. Lex doesn't believe it. Lionel, you're a liar. Remember an older episode when the mayor confronts Lex for not working with him like Lionel does? That scene coupled with this info makes it seem like Lionel was blackmailing the mayor, using his parents' death for political favor.
Yeah.
I don't remember writing that, but
yeah,
sure.
Very deep. Lana heads
there's
to the
definitely
barn.
connection. There's something that's not spoken here about the mayor and Lionel are definitely in cahoots. And Lionel was definitely aware of Smallville before he ever came here. You know what I mean? Like it brings up the bigger picture, which I like.
Yeah. Lana heads to the barn to talk with Clark, reflecting on Louise pursuing love, but it leads to her downfall. The episode ends with Jonathan and Clark in the caves as Clark has another flashback of Jor-el with Hiram, who looks like Indiana Jones for some reason. Hiram leaves and tells Jor-el if there's anything he ever needs to holler back. Holla back. Hey, Al's here. We're talking about Relic, and it's funny because when I watched it, I was like, I don't know if I like this. And now as we discuss it, I'm liking it more and more because it's the whole parallel of like, it was all about, it's destiny. It's like Jonathan.
Yes. Here's why we did it, if I can interrupt you.
Please.
So, because we were like, the idea that Kal-El accidentally crashed in this cornfield and that, Jor-el, for all of his brilliance of saving his son and getting him off Krypton, and then to just let him be kind of randomly picked up on Earth somewhere. So we like the idea that, the Kryptonians were ancient astronauts and had been to Earth before, and that Jor-el specifically sent him to Smallville. That was part of the plan. So it wasn't random. There was destiny involved, which is not something, to be honest, which had really been explored in the Superman mythology before. It always had been just a very random thing. So that was that was kind of why we did the episode, why we did that episode. And then of course playing with the idea of, destiny and fate, I think we called him Joe.
Joe.
That he had sort of a kind of torrid affair with Lana's ancestor, so that the idea that there was sort of a destiny to Clark and Lana, we like that idea, playing with the themes of kind of fate and destiny, but also expanding on the idea that the Kryptonians have visited Earth before.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. This just came to mind. Krypton explodes and Clark is sent here. Was it sort of a precursor or foreshadowing into, let's say, they were scouting out this planet because in case something ever happened with Krypton, they thought their son could actually come here? Is that what?
Yeah, I think that was definitely part of Jor-el's plan. You know what I mean? I think Jor-el, he was a scientist. I think there was a fascination with other life in the universe. He looked at Earth, which I think for Kryptonians in many ways was still sort of primitive in terms of how they were evolved as humans as a species. But I think he saw there was good there, and that things on Krypton could go badly. It's almost like he was ahead of their version of a climate crisis by probably a couple decades, and then so he at least had a doomsday plan to not only save his own son, but also in a way save keep the Kryptonian race going.
Yeah, that makes sense. Bryce had a question. Bryce is filling in for Ryan. He's here. Say hello to Bryce.
Hey, Bryce, how are you?
Hey.
Doesn't Bryce do a great job with editing?
Job.
Well, Jason edits, but Bryce edits a lot of stuff too on the side.
Jason, you're great too.
Well, Jason is fantastic. Between him and Jason, it's just like a great team. His question was like, Lionel Luthor plays it so ambiguous and so good in terms of when we're talking about the old tenement fire and it was actually an explosion and you're like watching him kind of, and his question was, did you guys know what was going to happen before? And my answer was always like, no, we never really knew. So, they kind of gave us an idea, like, to the directors, tell me if I'm wrong, to sort of like, hey, play this against the grain or, and I told Tom, I go, I guarantee it, of all the actors, I harassed Alan Miles the least. I rarely called.
No. And I think I did.
And Tom says he had me beat, but I think you probably complained more, Tom.
No, but frankly, neither of you guys did. And when we talked, it was usually between seasons, before the season started again, if you guys were in LA, you'd come in the office, we'd have kind of a general talk about the season. But to answer your question specifically about Lionel, what we actually ended up doing was giving Lionel the Lex Luthor backstory from the comics, which is that he was brought up poor and Morgan Edge was his friend, which was actually a Lex Luthor, I believe, was in the comics, because Lex in the comics, at least in one version, the version we knew, he had been brought up poor and was self-made, and that's kind of what Lionel was. So we kind of just transposed that backstory to Lionel, and that was his connection to Morgan Edge.
So smart.
Yeah, another thing we were talking about, and that's really cool, by the way, but was that Allison, at least for this episode, Chloe, she seemed a little stronger, a little more ambiguous, a little bit more. She showed a little more strength now, and I'm hoping at this point in the series, we're veering away from the love story, the love triangle as much, and it just she felt stronger. She felt like, okay, she's got, she's
self-esteem.
She's maturing, maybe self-esteem. I don't know.
No, I think absolutely she is, and I think you're in season 3. I think. As you're seeing, probably you guys are 6 episodes into this so far,
something like that, 5 or 6.
Yeah, you can see it's kind of this is 6. I think in a good way, it's kind of a darker season, and it's a season where people are kind of kicking the boundaries of what their character's behavior normally was. Obviously, Clark to an extreme way in the first 2 episodes with Red K, but also but I think even his relationship with Lana, where he's the one who kind of put the brakes on it. And now I think you see Chloe, who clearly had been under Lionel's thumb, is now kind of pushing back. So I think a lot of the season is people discovering their own power.
Yeah.
And I think Lex will do that.
Oh boy. Yes.
But it'll take him to,
dark places.
A very dark place, as we get to sort of see some of the ramifications of not only what happened on that island, but obviously the years of kind of
dysfunction and mentally
dysfunction, by Lionel, and we'll learn. And also this was a season of people really kind of delving more into their family past. Clark is learning more about Jor-el and Krypton, and you're going to learn more about the family secrets that you've repressed as we get into the season. So I think what I
think is really funny. It just occurred to me.
Clowns
on this podcast. Al is kind of like Jor-el, calling in from the ether.
Yeah, he's calling in. He's like, "Listen to me. I am the man. I know what I'm talking about. I am our golf creator.
I am all knowing. You guys don't ever remember what you did, but I remember 20 years later.
At this point in the show." And it's funny because as you guys are doing the podcast, I'm listening, I'm remembering things as well. And, one of the things that we set up in this season very early on is Jonathan's deal with Jor-el to get Clark back. And the ramifications of that were his health issues because again, in our heads at this point, we thought this show will go 5 seasons. That's what we thought. So we were kind of loading the bases, knowing that on the 100th episode, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but I'm assuming if you're listening to this rewatch podcast, you have, is, Jonathan Kent was going to die in the 100th episode. That was always kind of in the cards for us. So it was also kind of laying some of the groundwork for the bigger moves to come, because we literally thought Endgame was going to be season 5.
Does Schneider not ask, like, when he's making the deal and Schneider doesn't know what the deal is, or does he at that point?
It doesn't work like that, Bryce. Sorry, Al, but everybody signs a 7-year contract, and at a certain point, if the show is successful, you can go in and ask
6 year
for a renegotiation. I think mine was 7.
Mine was 6, and I signed on for one more.
What happens is
John doesn't know.
Tom, you're
he
right.
wasn't happy about dying.
You sign on for you sign a 6-year contract. Usually in season 3 is when, at least in old time television, that's when the actors on the successful show would go back and renegotiate for more money, as they should, knowing the value of a hit show. But the quid pro quo with that was that you would then give
another year.
So you'd have 7 seasons.
Right.
And that was kind of, and then as a show gets, longer running, and Tom, we left after season 7, but then Tom, you extended further, and, and that's just, again, how it used to work. But in our heads, we were always told, if you get to season 3, you'll get to season 5.
Right.
And so we thought, okay, let's, we were like, that's the 5-year kind of plan, at least in our head. So we should start to look at that. And I think, when we got to season 5, and I'm digressing here, so you can cut any of this you want. Season 4, I remember Entertainment Weekly did this thing where they said, "Oh, is Smallville on the bubble?" which was completely untrue. And I had it out with one of the editors there, who's now a good friend of mine. And so season 5, we're throwing everything in it because this could be the last season. And if you guys recall, season 5 was the season we were up against Alias, the OC,
24.
24. Like, we were up against everything, and we moved to Thursday nights. And because at the time, this is the other thing too, in television, Thursday was a very important advertising night for the networks, because the movie studios always advertised all of their weekend movies in the Thursday night shows. And because they didn't know how much time they were going to buy, you were always buying that at a premium. So I remember David Janellari, who was running the network at the time, said, "I want to move you to Thursday. We need you to be our beachhead." And my response to him was, "Well, I hope that beach is in Normandy." So
Wow.
and then we ended up, it was a big resurgence, I think, both creatively and ratings wise for the show, which then I think propelled it into its next
couple
5
seasons.
years.
5 years,
Yeah.
Well, this has been enormous. This is why I love calling Al and bothering him. But it's fun. It's fun.
It is fun.
It is fun. You're so knowledgeable, and it's good to just shoot the shit with you. All right, we're going to move on. We love you, and we'll just call you, and when you answer, right? Right, Al?
Excellent. Thanks, man.
All right, love you, buddy. The episode ends with Jonathan and Clark in the caves as Clark has another flashback of Jor-el with Hiram, who looks like Indiana Jones. I said that. Hiram leaves and tells Jor-el if there's anything he needs to holler. I said all that. Clark then realizes that the Kents didn't find it by accident. They are the chosen ones. So, other things, fun or let's see. We don't need to talk about that. We've also had a lack of Sam Jones this season. 6 episodes in, and no damn who's that. And, so that's not good. Was this his last season?
I don't know.
We'll find out. I don't know. We don't need to talk about that. Interesting things to note, though. We'll talk about. The song Earth Angel by the Penguins is played while Jor-el, Tom Welling, and Louise McCallum, Kristen Kruker in the barn. The song was previously played in Superman 3, 1983, during the Smallville High School reunion dance attended by Clark, Christopher Reeve, and Lana Lang and Ned O'Toole. Really cool stuff you found out. How'd you just look online?
Yeah.
The episode was billed by the WB on air and at their website as Smallville 1961. Tom Welling, Kristen Kruger, Michael Rosenbaum, and Ed O'Toole and John Schneider are the only lead actors to appear in the first 50 episodes of the series. And now it's time for the hotline. We're ready for the hotline. Let's do this, man. Let's do this. Let's start out with
that makes sense.
It's 2-on-3 Jet Cute. Keep your questions short if you can. Here's patron privilege. These are Patreon. Go to patreon.com/talkville. Become a patron. Support the podcast. Here's Karen M. Karen, we love you. What do you got for us?
Hey guys, Karen Apple M from Australia with this question for Season 3 Relic. Tom, what was it like to go back in time? The hair, the clothes, the cars, and playing a very confident Jor-el. Thanks, bye.
Nice Daily Planet shirt too, by the way. How'd you feel?
By the way, thank you for your enthusiasm in that question. I remember learning a very good thing here and this episode of that. It was extremely distracting to be on a set that was completely different than what we were doing in clothes and hair. Everything took more time, everything else. And I remember learning something of like, okay, none of that matters. Play the scene. I remember that. Yeah.
I like that. Michael,
don't be distracted.
It's Michael Machoni from Texas. The episode Relic really shows Jor-el on a side that we hadn't heard or seen about before. Given all that we know about the character, does this help to improve your opinion on Jor-el, and does it paint him in a better light?
Tom, how do you feel about Jor-el at this point?
I don't know, it's hard to judge parents. You know, I mean,
well, knowing what we know and like how evil Jonathan thinks he is, and maybe he's going to come here and destroy the world, and that's what they want. But seeing him in this light makes you feel like, oh, this guy is a good person.
Yes, with what you just said, yes, he's got a heart. It shows heart where before he just seemed like a Terminator.
Yeah, he's got a heart on his shoulder. Carter, this is Carter. Oh, Carter.
What's up, Team Talkville? This is Carter K. from Farmington, Missouri. In this episode, we get potentially the most in-depth characterization of Jor-el in any live-action adaptation at this time it aired. In fact, Tom, you might be the first live-action Jor-el since Marlon Brando at this time. With all that said, Tom, how did you approach bringing Jor-el to life and balancing making him similar and or different than Clark? Also, what do you guys think about this episode in terms of how it redirects the viewer's idea of who Smallville's Jor-el was going to be?
The quick answer is I think Clark had a lot of hesitation with believing what his choices were. And with Jor-el, the main thing I did is I took that away. Where he was more, I don't know, confident in what he wanted.
Also, you look like a damn hunk in those flashback scenes. You guys looked so good. I was like, oh my God. It just, and I remember Kristen didn't like your wig very much. How about the wardrobe and the makeup and the sets, the design, the lighting? It was just extraordinary.
How about when they changed that whole street? I think it was Cloverdale.
Oh,
they put all those cars and the whole thing. That was like,
how about the
legit
sheriff car out there, a la Back to the Future, when it's in the grass and it drives away? I always think, where do people have these old cars? They just find them. Pretty awesome stuff. This is Ryan, not Ryan Teos calling in. Wouldn't that be funny?
Hello, gentlemen. This is Ryan from the beautiful Black Hills of South Dakota. And just a quick question here. When you guys were filming this episode, did you feel that either it was good as far as being a little nostalgic, or did you feel it was a little too cheesy? There were parts of it that just kind of came across as a little bit of cheese. But yet the backstory with Jor-el visiting and being sent there on a trial of his own, I thought was really interesting.
Thanks, Ryan. Good question. I think we sort of answered that in terms of the episode, like Tom was saying, that he just had to play it like, how would we play the scene? How would we do this? I'm this. You know, It was definitely, you know, there was a sort of to me, watching them, there was a calmness in Jor-el, which made it more powerful. He wasn't, you know, he was just... He had more of a presence. Like Clark, I saw the difference in Clark being the teenager trying to figure it out, so that was really, really good acting on your behalf.
It's well, thank you. I think like when the deputy shows up and tries to flex on Joe, Joe's kind of like, okay, I'll go with you. You know, like I'll flow with this.
You're not going to win,
you know. Well, even in the next episode, we're going to see a situation, and we'll talk about it in the next episode, but it connects to this where a gun's pointed at Clark, and Clark's reaction is, okay, I see this is your choice, but
I'm not scared.
I'll play along.
You don't want to do this?
Yeah.
Joe, this is a good question. Watch this one.
Hi, I'm Joe from St. Louis, Missouri, and I have a question. Is there a reason why
Tom plays Jor-el and Kristen plays her great aunt, but Michael is not playing his grandpa, Lachlan Luthor.
Oh, yeah.
I've always wondered that. So yeah, that's my question.
Great question, Joe.
Good
that was a question.
question.
You get a prize. You're awesome. You know,
That would have been so distracting.
well, they would have had to put a wig on me. They would have had to put a wig on me, and it
You would
probably
have
would
to
have
work
been
2
too
extra
distracting. I bet they
days.
thought about it. But they're like, it's going to look too hokey, and it's going to take us out of it. But maybe it would have been cool. Good question, though. Emily, what do you got for us? Emily and Ivory.
Hi there, this
That's
is
a good
Emily
question.
from Vancouver, British Columbia. I've noticed as the season's gone on, there's been a lot of blue and red props. Like in Relic, there was blue and red
I'm
tarps in
colorblind.
the back, and
I don't
then
know.
when Clark transitions into the 50s throwback, there's a blue car, and so on. Do you guys notice blue and red a lot? Because I know I do. Thanks, bye.
Thanks. I'm colorblind, so I don't really notice colors like everybody else does. I see colors, but I can't differentiate a lot.
Here's my quick answer. The set deck people and the wardrobe people are completely and fully and utterly aware of that.
And in sync.
And it's never an accident, and it's in sync, and it's beautiful the way they do it. As actors, you kind of notice, but the set deck and the wardrobe, they're absolutely aware of all that.
It's got to make
It's
their job
nothing's
easier,
an accident
right?
in that.
Because
Well,
it's like,
yeah.
when there's something to choose from, just choose the red one.
Well, it's called
Yeah.
they call it a palette, right? So these are the colors. This is what it's going to look like. So the set design tries to say, they look and they go, okay, let's put some reds and some blues here. They think about that. The lighting, they might make it a
Warmer,
little bluer
cooler.
at times. It might make it a little more red at times, and balancing that out with what the actors are wearing, the colors they're wearing.
Lex has purple.
Yeah, it can really add.
Clark
to
is red
the
and
scene.
blue.
Here's Dave. Great question. These questions are top notch today. Top notch.
This is a
Dave?
good episode. This is a good podcast episode.
Yeah, this is a good one. Tired.
Hi,
Me
this
too.
is Dave from Dallas. Love the show.
Dave.
How do y'all get that many cars, old cars, for one episode? Anytime I see a show where there's a flashback, that's always been kind of curious. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Dave. They have these places. They go out, the transpo department and the guys that deal with set design. Well, I don't know set design, but they make contacts with people that they've known over the years that they've worked on different projects, and they build this I guess this sheet of all these numbers and information. Oh, this guy has a bunch of old cars from the 60s. This guy has this. They know. It's like when an actor prepares or director prepares for a shoot, this is exactly what everybody else is doing in props and
It's all
set
like
design.
third-party vendors. It's not like by the studio.
Yeah.
It's all random.
Right. It's
Like
random.
there's a
owners.
go-to guy for Humvees. There's a go-to guy for there's go-to guys for
You
this
just got to
stuff.
find them, and that's their job. They know it. If you're looking for an old car, there's guys that this is what they do. Jor-el, not Jor-el, Jor-el or Daryl. It's Daryl.
Hey, Tom, Michael, and Ryan. This is Daryl. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Jor-el.
And there was a scene where Clark and Lana's
Jor-el.
ancestors are kissing in the barn, and the song Earth Angel is playing in the background. And that song was a little nod to Superman 3,
Yep.
where Clark and Lana are sharing a slow dance together with Earth Angel playing in the background. Just wanted to know if you guys caught that or if that was intentional, whether it was or not. Still thought it was really cool. Anyways, thanks, you guys. Love the podcast and love the show. Keep it up.
Daryl, you rock. We just talked about that, but I didn't know that. That was news to me. I thought that was really cool and a fun parallel. I wonder who does that. Sort of, do they have a guy in the writers' room that says, "Hey, you're in charge of finding all these things and for us to make parallels or throwbacks to Superman or this would
Or
be
just
cool."
the writers while they're doing it. Or like
Maybe.
to my knowledge, and I just listened to you talk about this with James Gunn on your podcast about choosing music.
Inside of you.
To my knowledge, there's a music supervisor who the episode is made and he watches it, and they pull from different levels of cost for certain songs, and they try to sort of like be creative about what things cost and what will work for the scene. But there's a dedicated person that does that and who knows about licensing and fees and stuff like that.
You know what? I wonder if they hire someone who does the sound and the music. And the music guy, I forgot his name. I should know it. There was a few people that worked on the music, but he was amazing. I wonder if they do the research and they go, hey, I'm trying to get this on because it was also this, because, you know, a lot of times people don't have time to do that stuff, but if that's your job, again, like the car guys.
Yeah, they know.
The music guys, I think, are pretty adept in that stuff.
Yeah.
International folks who couldn't call in. Camille, when you guys ever prep to shoot period pieces, do you go back and watch old films to get an idea of how to carry yourself? Thanks. Love the show. Let me tell you this. There's an episode where we do another time thing.
Noir.
And I remember I thought my performance was terrible because I put on an accent. I kind of was like, yeah, that's right. I did this whole thing with my
Cagney, a little bit of gangster.
And I was allowed to do it, but I asked if I can go back and dub my regular voice over it. And I think we did that because I wasn't happy with it. But I think it turned out fine. But I don't know. I think I watched part of it and I was a little bit like, I thought it was kind
of like the old James Cagney snuck in there.
Yeah, come on, I'm Lex Luthor, and let me tell you something. I'm gonna go nuts on you, Lana. I don't know why I said that. Rosenbaum rating system. Now this is the first time ever
Rosenbaum
that
rating.
I started to like the episode the more I thought about it. Bryce, do you feel the same way?
No.
Or did you hate it?
I'm the flip way. I watched this a couple weeks ago to prep, and then I watched it last night knowing that I'm coming here.
You didn't like it.
And I liked it less the second time.
You liked it less. Wow.
Yeah.
I liked it more. So what do you give it, Bryce?
Half a bomb.
Half a bomb. Wow, dude.
Whoa.
I was going to go heater, but I was like, I really don't like this episode. It's
Wait, do you understand the rating system?
Yeah, bombs are bad.
Harsh.
Right?
Bombs are bad.
Yeah. It's
so
not,
so he's saying it wasn't good, but it wasn't the worst thing ever, but it wasn't good. So
yeah, I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't be like, go watch this episode.
I give it.
I'd say skip this episode.
I'm going to give it a. I'm going to give it a rose. I think
really
half a rose to a
I
rose.
didn't like it.
I liked it more. I think I was going to give it like a heater or half a rose. So I'm going to give it a rose because I like all the parallels and the backstory and now where everything comes from, and that's why I give it that.
Yeah.
I listen. I would say to somebody, you should watch this episode. I would never say watch it twice because the whole episode is about the reveal, who killed who, the reveal about Jonathan and Jor-el having a connection before. Like watching it the second time would be ridiculous.
Yeah, if I rated it off of one watch, it wouldn't have been half a bomb for sure.
So maybe I'd give it a heater.
Sure.
Because you can't watch it twice. He's going to go to a heater. He's going to give it a heater.
Rate it on the first time you watched it.
Okay, so he gives it a heater. I give it a rose. You give it, I'm guessing, 2.
I'm going to 2. I think this is a cool episode that takes us out of the norm. It was a little distracting, but I think it paid off with a big reveal. I think this is a pivotal episode in the series.
I don't disagree with Tom. Death and save count. I bet Ryan will give this about a heater too. We'll see. He won't watch it. Death and save count. 1 dead, Louise Lang. 2 saved. Clark saves Tate from offing himself. Jor-el saves Louise from robber. Through 6 episodes in season 3, 8 dead, 13 saved. Series 67 dead, 83 saved. And now it's time for Bryce's favorite scene.
Well, this is gonna be
floating in the field, floating in the field one where they're flying.
Yep.
When Clark sees the mayor's signature and it's a T, I like that. And then the third one is Clark doing the Keanu in the office, dodging bullets.
Tom, you go first.
3.
I say, he talked about how much he really thought that was cool earlier about the T and the J. So it's either that or the floating. But why would you give just seeing a letter as your favorite scene? That's what I'm kind of battling.
We don't know. He's a mystery to us. He's a
the
unicorn.
T and the J.
No, it was the first one.
It was the first one.
Yeah.
Fuck.
It's just a cool scene.
I knew it wasn't the third one.
At least we were both wrong.
All right. Well, that was a lot to talk about. Thank you, Al. Thanks, Bryce, for being here. You'll be with us for the next one as well.
Yep. I like that one more.
Yes.
Oh, good. Well,
this could be an extended podcast episode.
Well, it's definitely over an hour, which is plus ads. I mean, you're gonna, be about 105, 110, maybe more. That's it for the episode. Stick around next week as we get together and talk about season 3, episode 7. It's called Magnetic. Let's take the discussion online. Let us know your thoughts on the episode over on our socials at Talkville Podcast or at Talkville Pod. Please show support if you're really loving this and you really enjoyed this episode. If you want to give back, patreon.com/talkville. It really helps. If you want to buy great merch, talkvillepodcast.com. Tom and I signed some stuff. We've got awesome shirts and sweatshirts and posters and just everything. Also, the Inside of You online store has a bunch of cool merch. And I will give a shout out to my podcast, Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. We have great guests, Nestor Carbonell from Lost and The Psycho Show. Bates Motel. He's awesome. Last week had Carrie Ann Moss from The Matrix. Please support it. We talk a lot about mental health, and it's a cool podcast. If you haven't listened to it, and I know a lot of you haven't, I'd really appreciate if you listen, subscribed, and write a review.
And by the way, recently I talked about this before. James Gunn does a really good discussion about his own mental health on your podcast. I really appreciated it.
Thanks, man. If you want more info, like the merch from the show, hotline number, all that stuff, conventions, you can go to my Instagram or wherever. My Instagram has a link tree, and it gives you everything you could possibly want to know, including Cameo. All right, that's it. Bryce, why don't you say the Remember Folks line? Because you know what? This is your first time here for this.
Remember, folks, always hold on to Smallville.
Guy knows how to learn lines. We'll see you next week.
And now a shout out to our patrons, without whom we would not be doing this. So thank you.
Well, patreon.com/talkville. We love you. Down, Tom. You can go.
Nikki G, Leah and P, Raj C, Santiago M, Leah and Kristen, Little Lisa, Thomas the Leaf Blower, Sophie M, Betsy D, Abhi P, Raj, Ray H, I always mess that up, Karen Apple M, Danielle B, 99 more, Leilani N, Brett G, always hold on to Smallville, DJ Kento, Garrett W, Kimberly L, Tom N, Jason W, Osama A, Lana Rams with Banana, Nancy D, Brian G, Sarah W, Amanda R, Teddy 1, 2, 7, Michael P, Theo M, and Ryan R.
Well, we got Jordan M, we got Hillary B, and Randy B, Craig G, Christy R, Karen P, Derek G, Jor-el, Heather, and Greg, Nico P, and I made small Talkville say butts, Eric K, Clark's mom, Kristen B, Craig C, Nanine W, Stephanie K, Darth Achilles, Finky, Tamra H. Damn, who's that? Jeanette E, Deadvid, General Zod, Big D, Doug R, Carlos C, Tommy Z, Boston 68, Ken, the Limerick Guy, Isabel, Corey L, Mr. Home Arcade.
Mr. Home Arcade and Amanda K, Jesse C, Claire M, D Brown, Carrier, what?
Karen Era
M. I just turned my screen down like an idiot. Karen Era M, Eldon Supremo, Leslie V, Nick Burt, Ginger Moose, Christoph S, Michelle M, Drew, Brittany S, Marisol P, what up? Veronica Q, Sebastian F, Sourpuss C, Matthew, and Lincoln B.
David G, Carol B. This will be the DJ version. 99.5 WKDQ. Coming up, the Coopers, Marianne Louise L, CGO, Cindy C, Nikki L, Shannon, Fofanon M, Brian S, Tina E, Matt R, Anthony R, Jen T, Jess D, Cassie B, Felicia R, Danny M, DS_the_RN, JS on your favorite radio station, 96 WSTO. We love you guys. Thanks for all the support and love. Couldn't do it without you.